Sitting here in Cocktails Unknown with City Cellars restaurant owner, Daniel. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing good. How you doing today?
Good, man. Came in here the other day. I saw you running food, man. Why you grinding so hard?
I can't ask the staff to do anything I want to. I mean, as a small business owner, you've got to be in the trenches with them. So if you're not willing to run food, but you're asking your staff to, if you're not willing to get in dish pit, but you're telling everyone, don't tell me that's not my job, you just said it. It's not your job if you're not willing to do it. So it's a culture thing.
I like that, man. Honestly, the restaurant is a community ecosystem. Everybody has to pitch in order for it to be successful.
Exactly.
And right now, we're in the Speakeasy, Cocktails Unknown. I know this is your baby right here. So Danny, what he ended up doing, instead of creating a traditional PDR, he ended up just turning his into pretty much a theme size event space, Speakeasy. What was the vision behind it?
Yeah, so, we really didn't want a PDR. Just when you look at PDR, it's got its own wave of issues that we still deal with without having a PDR, and I just didn't want to deal with them full time. But I wanted a Speakeasy, looking at, what you see in Houston and look what you see at least in just throughout North America. Speakeasies are on trend right now, but I really wanted to do a Speakeasy that was different than most. And so I'm very big on social action, social justice. And so our Speakeasy, we donate a portion of every drink back to a cause that's near and dear to me, mental health advocacy. And so we created a space that was secret, but not so secret because of the cause that we support. And, it kind of feeds into the entire experience of the Speakeasy. And so here I'm able to do things, use this as a PDR when it's not the Speakeasy, use it as a Speakeasy when the Speakeasy is open, but then it's another space that I'm able to market.
And you do market it separately from City Cellars? You market it as its own separate entity?
Separate entity. For now, it's owned by City Cellars, but we're very, very strict. So my bar staff that works in the Speakeasy, we're extremely strict that what's allowed out there, meaning in the restaurant, is allowed out there. You cannot bring it in here. And what's allowed in here is not available out there, right? So even to the water glasses, we have different water glasses that are in here, and that's by design, right? Think of it as it's its own separate business, because we really wanted to isolate that. When people are coming for our brunch or dinner experience, they know what they're walking into. When people come into the Speakeasy, they don't know what they're walking into, and that's by design.
I like that. And that even extends to the food menu also.
Exactly. Yep. Food menu, drink menu. I've trained the bar staff, and we're very, very strict on that, where we have 18 cocktails and 18 cocktails only. You want a vodka soda? This is not the place for that. Mm-hmm. You want an espresso martini? That's great. We don't have that. We have a Vietnamese iced coffee style drink, but that's not an espresso martini, right? And that's one of probably the most common friction points that you see with customers, is that they say, well, you have Buffalo Trace and Coke, can I just get a Buffalo, no. We don't, anything that's not on menu, we don't allow substitutions. We want a very authentic experience. And so what we have is what we have. We can make some cocktails mocktails, but otherwise, we're not the place where you get to call the shots.
And I mean, which makes sense. This is an intimate room. I mean, you got 25, 30 people max that can fit in here. So it's like, if you are in here, you're here for an intentional reason, and we've already created that experience for you. So where did the name Cocktails Unknown come from?
So Cocktails Unknown kind of came from a little bit of a play on one of my heroes, Anthony Bourdain. I'm sure, right now the movie Tony is out, but Anthony Bourdain's show Parts Unknown, right? Or No Reservations. One of the things that I really, really loved about those shows is that when he traveled, he went in an authentic way. He didn't go to the touristy spots, right? He went to the spaces that were hole in the walls, had authentic conversation, didn't have any sense of entitlement, no sense of know-it-all. Like, he was there to genuinely learn, right? And he wasn't making substitutions. So Cocktails Unknown, paying tribute to Anthony Bourdain, seeing the world through cocktails. But then that also kind of goes back to our founding principles of the Speakeasy, right? We don't take substitutions. We don't take, you have it the authentic way, right? And that just goes back to that modeling of what we saw and what we're trying to mirror. And so I think that that's a huge reason for it.
You've connected Cocktails Unknown with the mental health aspect. Why are you so heavily invested in making sure those components are married?
Yeah, so I think when you look at a beverage and you look at mental health, I think there's a lot of similarities. From being in the industry, right, we have certain telltales that a drink is alcoholic, right? So, I've worked at bars or restaurants where, for example, this glass is only for non-alcoholic spirits, right? Like think the standard Coca-Cola red cups you see at a fountain drink. You'll never see alcohol in those unless someone snuck it in, right? But those are, as a security or a bouncer, that that's a non-alcoholic drink. They're good to take that outside, right? Versus a coupe glass almost always is going to have alcohol, right? With mental health, right? Someone says I'm fine. Are they? Are they really? How are they really doing, right? Like, just because someone's holding a drink, you don't know if it's a mocktail or a cocktail. Just because someone says they're fine, are they really? Are they doing okay? Are they just masking because they're under the illusion that no one really cares, right? So those two things have a lot of things in common. And so for me, mental health, everyone struggles with it, or everyone experiences it. So it was something that I really wanted to put on blast and say, hey, it's okay to talk about it. We want you to be authentic. We want you to be transparent, which just goes back to the ethos of the Speakeasy and of the name, of the experience with why you can't get what you want on the off the menu, etc. Right? It's everything feeds into each other.
What do you think about the hospitality industry professionals and how they're dealing with mental health and possibly burnout?
I think that is a really great point, and a really just constant challenge, right? When it comes to hospitality, you are always on, right? Like, you're always on. You're always having to greet people. No one cares about your day. You always have to say, hey, how's it going? Welcome in. What can I do for you today? How's your day? Oh, me? Don't worry about me. That's not my... You're right. Like, as a bartender especially, that. You are their therapist. You're their cocktail creator. You're their server. You're everything, right? So when do we get to take care of ourselves, right? And then now it's not just simply making drinks or simply running to get the food or getting that extra side of ranch we're going to remember at 2 a.m., right? It's now you have to study your craft. You have to constantly innovate, provide drinks, provide recipes, be better than the next bar, down to the garnish, down to the glassware, everything that goes into it, right? Yeah, you're asking for burnout if you don't take care of yourself. And so I think a lot of people in here can resonate with that, that there is a lot that goes into being in this industry. And if you don't take care of yourself, you will burn out.
Even in this room, beyond the drinks, what do you want somebody to feel when they're in here?
I said when I first opened, and I gave a couple interviews to some press and some articles, I said that if you come to my Speakeasy Cocktails Unknown and you leave feeling heard, seen, or valued, then I've done my job as an operator, right? Then I've done my job as a concept designer. And I think there's no better way to illustrate what an impact we've already had. We've only been open 5 months, right? But I think there's no better way to illustrate that impact than by some of our very first guests. They were here. Their brother lost their battle with mental health and depression, and they were some of our very first guests. They came in a week later. They emailed me and said, what an impactful experience it was, and that based on their experience here, they wanted to create a nonprofit for men's mental health. And now we partner with them as one of our charities, right? But I think I set out to cause people to make a change, have a conversation. And our very first guest we did that with, right? And that was not intentional. That was completely random. But I think now some of the conversations that we're having, I have some regulars now that call and say, hey, I talked to my friend that I haven't talked to in 5 years. They've got a kid. We're going for lunch now, on Saturday. I would have never reconnected if that story about that one cocktail wasn't told to me. Like, I really appreciate that, and so I think everything just, folds into each other.
You gave me the opportunity to really experiment with an event concept here. And as we talk about burnout, one of the things I'm big about is sometimes the place that you are working at, where you pay your bills, they might not necessarily be the spot where you get a creative outlet. And sometimes if you're doing the same thing over and over again with not having that creative outlet. That can lead to burnout. But we had Craft Clash here. We brought in different beverage creatives. They got a chance to also use it as a creative outlet. So it was one of those things that was like a cataclysmic effect. So with that coming to mind, what was it like seeing other people get a chance to come in here and also, you know what I'm saying, construct their own creative missions?
You know, I think it's for as an owner operator, I think it's it's a opportunity that we see. Oh wow, this is a really cool event. This is something that the city is asking for, right? This is something the industry is asking for, because based on the turnout, I mean, we had 120 people here in the building, right? And that was awesome, right? Just to see the passionate side of the industry, right? You're not just a drink maker, you're a storyteller, a curator. And so I think that was really cool. From the bartending side, right? I think it serves as a inspiration of, oh, this could be really cool to do, right? I mean, I had some of my bartenders mad at me that, they weren't competing in their own house, right? They didn't have that home court advantage.
They were competing. They were making the drinks for other people.
But as far as, being able to win the prize and being able to, really show their passion, right? It's one thing to go to the bar and order, let me just get a house cocktail, versus here's my science fair project that I'm showing, and it's like that, right? I spent all this time, the story, the infusions, everything else.
And mind you, these are drinks that you will never be able to purchase at a bar because they're too elaborate. They just don't fit into regular operations.
Exactly. Like these are, you can have craft or you can have speed. Very rarely can you have both, right? And so when it comes to these style of drinks, right, like the cocktails back here are craft. They are not fast. You will wait 5 minutes per cocktail, and that is my expectation, right? Like versus you go somewhere that's a margarita and they're like, if it's not out in 2 minutes,
what are you doing?
Right. But here, 5 minutes is the norm. If you get it out in 4, I'm impressed, right? So when we talk about some of those, like some of the bartenders seeing, oh, wow, this is a whole nother side of bartending I never saw. Or, wait, how did you do this, right? Like, I mean, I think we had someone do a cold foam with Saint Germain as one of the competitors. And I'm like, it sounds like you just put words together. I have no idea. Break that process down.
I think they had like peppers in it too.
Yeah, break that process down. Explain that to me. Okay, how did you do this? Where did you learn how to do this? How much time did it take? Like, oh, okay, right, and it's really cool to learn that and then bring it into our house to see how we can, implement something like that.
And so Aaron, he works at Zanti, Italian, Cucciana in River Oaks, but he also is the winner of Craft Clash, and now he's going to be the guest bartender for our upcoming event concept called Small Talk Connect. It's like a networking social where we bring in different entrepreneurs, creatives to meet, but he also will be curating a menu for that group of people, and you want to be a part of that process. What made you really want to be involved with that as well?
I think when we talk about from attending the event back in March, right? Like that was something that I go to a ton of networking events, but being able to go to that event in March and see what the actual reaction is and see that there are people that are in this niche, like some networking events, you have oil and gas and hospitality. The likelihood we're doing business together,
Christmas season only.
Right. Yeah. But like the rest of the year, from the event I went to that, was at the other place, I have 4 connections. That one was on my email this week, right? Like that's that, and I haven't talked to them since March, right? So having someone that you're bringing in people as a source of attraction. Now we have a guest bartender with Aaron, right? That is their own marketability, right? So now you have 3 fronts doing the marketing. You have Aaron, and you have City Cellars or Cocktails Unknown doing that marketing. So now you have 3 different angles, all for the same event. We have one shared goal, right? So it's like, to me, if I have someone that has their own clout, has their own, attraction, makes sense to work with them.
Yeah, definitely. And we always like to do it during the middle of the week too.
Yeah, when we're slower. I mean, that makes the most sense.
After Craft Clash, we've even been talking about maybe letting this room be a platform for other beverage creators. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so, and you just touched on that, where you said, sometimes the place where you're the most creative is not the place that pays you to be the most creative, right? And I think that's a huge, realization, right? Is you don't have to do this at your job. You can do this at a competition, win it, and bring it back, right? And now it's that much more meaningful to you to implement it at where you work, right? And it's like that refreshing sense of like, I mean, when you get your name on the menu, it's like, oh wow, I made it big. Like it says this drink by this person, right? Like that's a really cool honor, right? Like one of my favorite bars, I think, Trash Panda and Concrete Rose. At the very last page, it says special thanks to, and it has all their beverage team that, you know, contributed to the menu, because that takes a lot of work, right? Like that is huge. So using this space as a space to launch that creativity. I mean, this room was a lot of creativity that went into it, right? Our drinks are very creative. So just fostering that continued creativity, I think it fits right in with the mental health aspect. I think it fits right in with the ultimate goal of the Speakeasy. So absolutely.
I mean, do you even imagine maybe somebody coming from another city or something like that coming to bring their own experience and merging it with the Cocktails Unknown?
You know, so I've thought about that. Of eventually, I want to get into the side of programming within the Speakeasy, right? So, what does that look like? Is that lecturers? Is that, you know, guest speakers, seminars? Is that interactive experiences, tribute dinners, right? That's something that we've done. We did a Anthony Bourdain tribute dinner, a Robin Williams tribute dinner, you know, maybe a guest chef tribute dinner about how, you know, mental health in the kitchen, right? Or I mean, so our drinks touch on so many different subjects: mental health in the medical field, mental health in hospitality, travel, dark humor, etc. So yeah, I mean, having different creators, different entertainers, different industry professionals come in. I think the underlying theme, though, that I would want to make sure that we do through any of our programming, any of our, exhibitions, if you will, that it's directly tied back to the mental health aspect, because that is the shining light of Cocktails Unknown.
And you touch on those different event concepts, and the infrastructure really lends well to it, with you guys having a TV screen, isolated AV,
Yep.
specific to this room, and even a specific entrance to the kitchen, so that way
Yeah, so
out.
that was one thing that, you know, when we designed this room, right, this room sat empty for about 10 months from when the restaurant opened. The restaurant opened in March of 25. We did not start construction on this until February of 26. And this was literally white walls, right? But when I designed this room, I knew that I wanted a separate entrance, I knew that I wanted a separate exit, and I knew that I needed a direct kitchen access. I knew that I needed AV in here, because if we did use this as a PDR, we needed a separate AV. We can tap into our TV. This has its own, you know, house sound, own microphone, has its own bar, its own, you know, dish area. All of that to make this room as marketable and as self-contained as possible. The only thing that is not in this room is bathrooms. Those are shared with the main restaurant.
Yeah.
But, you know, if I could make that work,
there's a door straight
footage,
outside, so like,
right. I mean, if I could make it work square footage and people weren't afraid of the bushes, then be my guest.
Yeah.
But, you know, we got to work with what we got to work with.
I like that, man. If we're sitting here a year from now, everything's worked out, what does that look like?
You know, if we're sitting here a year from now, so what are we? We're in August, so if we're sitting here next August, right around Labor Day weekend, that means that we're sold out consistently. Right now, we're probably 80% walk-ins. You know, to me, what this means is that we are completely sold out on a consistent basis. We have a wait list. You know, it's not a if you know, you know. It's a if you can get in, you can. Right? It's a very much. It's a place that we really, you know, it's guarded to get in. You know, almost from a charitable aspect, and, you know, from a, you know, philanthropy aspect. I've got people that come in and say, I love what you're doing here. How can we get involved? And, you know, we're not a nonprofit. We're a bar and restaurant, but I feel like it's responsible that we donate that 10%. So maybe I have someone say, hey, we want to match you, right? Like, we'll donate directly to these charities, but if I could have a corporate matcher or two and, you know, double or triple our donation, oh, that would be incredible. Having us, you know, right now we're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Having a series on Tuesday and Wednesday, and maybe a daytime series during Sunday, or, you know, something on Monday when we're closed. But truly activating this room to where it's one of those spaces that if you don't book it 6 to 9 months out, it's already sold. You know, that would be like the dream goal.
Cocktails Unknown. Super excited to see what we turn out here. You know,
Yeah.
Aaron, he's a killer. You know, small talk, it always brings out great people as well. So I imagine it's going to be a winner. So, man, thank you so much for letting us create
Absolutely.
here.
Hey, thank you.